Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the Adult Education Advisory Committee's Ad Hoc Committee on Recruitment and Onboarding's panel discussion. This is a three-part series, and today we are hearing from the YWCA in Elgin, Heartland Community College, and Daly College. So what we have for you today is some fantastic speakers who are I'm going to have them first introduce themselves, and then we're going to ask a series of questions and allow you all an opportunity to ask questions. So this is really an opportunity for dialogue between all of you and the programs that we've invited today. Just a little heads up, and we'll mention this again at the end, there are two other webinars. On March 11th at 1 p.m. we get together and we'll be featuring Illinois Eastern Community College, Literacy Chicago, and College of Lake County. And then on March 16th, we'll have Kankakee Community College, Illinois Central Community College, and Truman College. So we do look forward to hearing from all of you and seeing you at those events. A couple of notes before we get started, and those of you who don't know my voice, this is Amy Julian. I'm the director for the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support at Illinois State University. I am joined here today by Brittany Boston, who is my colleague and partner in crime on professional development for recruitment for adult education. All of you are currently in listen only mode, but that does not mean that you cannot engage with us. So there's a couple ways in which you can engage. Number one, you have the raised hand feature. So please feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you in that way. Or at the bottom of your, right under your attendees button there is a question pane. And in that question pane, you're able to go in and post any questions, and we'll be taking questions throughout the day and hearing from our panelists. So with that, I'm going to allow each of our panelists to introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Carrie. And Carrie, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we'll go Deanna and Felicia.
Hi, my name is Carrie Urquizo and I work at Heartland Community College. I'm the Associate Dean of Adult Education.
Welcome, Carrie. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And
Thank
Dina?
you.
Hi, everyone. Dina Giacometti, Dean of Adult Education at Daly College, one of the city colleges of Chicago.
Thank you, Dina. And Felicia?
Hi, Felicia King with the YWCA of Elgin, and Chief Operating Officer.
Fantastic. So as we go through today, we're going to have 5 questions that we're going to be asking the panel. I'm going to throw those up or 2 of them up on the screen. We will ask 2 questions. I'll ask each question. Carrie, Dina, and Felicia will answer each of those questions. Then we'll open the floor for questions from all of you in our audience. Then we'll move on to questions 3, 4, and 5, and then again, open the floor for questions from all of you. So again, we want this to be an engaging dialogue, and we're here to just kind of learn from each other and have a great conversation. So our first question, and we'll go Carrie, Felicia. Well, I guess I said it that way. So Carrie, Felicia, Dina this time. How have your marketing strategies changed as a result of the pandemic? Carrie?
Thank you. Our marketing strategies have changed completely since the pandemic. No longer can we hang up flyers and expect students to just come to us through the door. So we've taken a more active approach virtually by marketing through Facebook and social media, and also really leveraging our partners, our APC partners, to help us get the word out for our students. We've worked with our immigration project and with our local library to see if we can do on-site enrollment at their locations. We've tried different strategies to see how we can get students in our doors. Something that we're looking forward to and working on is hiring student ambassadors. And the student ambassadors will work for us to help us get the word out, because we know that word of mouth is the biggest way that we get our students through the door. So we're going to pick 2 students from our program that are very vested in their community and well known, and we're going to get them out there and help us get the word out for students to our program.
That is fantastic. Great marketing strategy. I think I said Dina next.
Yes, so we have done very similar to what Carrie mentioned, I think in the beginning, just coming to the realization like, okay, we need to build some systems here. I think, you know, adult education as a field, in a way, you know, computers became a thing and we just all changed nothing. And so starting from that and then building systems that were internal on SharePoint has been critical for us. And so really systematizing outreach, assigning staff to relationship building with partners has been critical. And then once engaging those partners, helping them to understand the online application process, which was new for adult learners. And so how do they help students get through that online process? So we did some of that, what Carrie said too, with word of mouth. There are two things that we're doing now. One is we have the system Navigate, where you can text students. And so once or twice a term, texting students and just saying something like, do you love Daily College? Have your friends and family apply. Similarly, I'll send out a message to all the enrolled students. Do you know anyone who's looking for an ESL or GED class? Sending them the link directly to the application. And so thinking about the yield that could bring, even if just 1 in 10 students pass that on and get through the process, that's a pretty good size number. And then social media, we've tried to encourage, social media with the flyers. And I think we can't, well, I guess this will go into the next question, but really thinking about what the virtual front desk looks like when it comes to, okay, we've brought all these students in, and then how do we get to the next steps? So I'll go into that more when we get into the next question.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great. I love how everyone's strategies are slightly different, but there's some major themes. So Felicia, if you'd like to address this question, how have marketing strategies changed as a result of the pandemic?
Well, for one, we really didn't have online programming, so that's a new opportunity for us to talk about. We were hoping really to reach a different group, and we have somewhat a different group of students, but very heavy with, like I said, the social media. In particular, as we ended last year, we started with the assistance of some of our leader students, a Facebook group where we have been constant contact throughout the summer. Where are resources? What about the programming? Hey, teachers get on or other students get on to communicate with each other. Flyers and things were distributed there. So it was a chance to keep that core group very strong and move us toward the coming year. We still were very active throughout the year, throughout the summer with going to places that were distributing food and other resources to talk about our programming, to get students engaged, going to where they were, and then from that point, helping them virtually to find us. That was a transition for a lot of us to learn how to do those activities. So a lot of ways, very grassroots in some ways, but taking it online.
That is fantastic. Again, if you all have questions that you'd like to ask Harry, Dina, and Felicia, please post those in the question box. We're going to go through our next question, then we're going to open the floor up. So be sure you're typing those questions away. Our next question for the panel, we're going to go Felicia, Dina, and then Carrie, so opposite direction this time. What effective strategies have you implemented to onboard or recruit students considering the ongoing mitigation related to the pandemic? So Felicia, we'll start with you.
So we became more than flexible. I feel like we've always been flexible to meet the needs of our students, but we are kind of in hyperdrive at this point. However, we can work with you, let's do it. Morning classes, night classes, hybrid, things like that, that we then, once we're engaged with a student and things are changing with their lives, with their kids, who has COVID now, things like that, we are basically constantly in motion. And as it started at the onboarding point through recruitment. Unless we're getting you into classes, it's not really worth anything. But I know I'm skipping over something. So we did a lot of things to stay in contact. We have bilingual staff in multiple languages that will reach out with supports. When we get ready to do the onboarding, we do a lot of intake services at that point, access to technologies, what's their expertise level, what assistance they're going to need, and then they have someone who is their go-to person that is there to help them. We were very successful, I feel, considering how it was going to look, doing the full intake. We did do some things in person, most of it virtually. So even getting through the testing early on, we found it's really important for us to pre-test is kind of our normal, but through Zoom testing and with our testing staff, because it kind of gave them practice and prepared those students for their online classes. Again, this was all new to us, so we're practicing as we're going, what's working. You know, the pre-call, it's a lot of hand-holding that has led to most stable of our students to say, you know, stable coming to class. We offer just opportunity to access, to get to us, and to keep coming to class.
Fantastic. I think that is kind of the name of the year, is flexibility and being accommodating. Dina, would you like to address question 2?
Sure. So I think one thing I started to mention was thinking about the virtual front desk and what that looks like for us. So, you know, initially in March, we were like, oh my gosh. And so we just developed a virtual Zoom room for the adult ed department. We staffed that from 11 to 7 to cover all areas of classes. And then also Friday and Saturdays from 9 to 1. So our clerical staff is in there ready to help students. We got a Google Voice number for the department. We have since expanded that to 6 Google Voice numbers that are connected to landlines at the college. And so we utilize that. And then also we have our daily at adult ed email address. And so when we think about how we're marketing it, it's how can students get back in touch with us? And so that's join the Zoom room. The link is on that communication. So they click that link and go right into a virtual space with someone on our staff. And then originally we did have call and text for the Google Voice, but we switched the communicate. People do still call, but we switched it to text because it was easier to ensure that communication was timely and getting back to the student. And then for our daily adult ed, we have that on there, of course, so students can email issues that they're having. We designed a new student orientation that's accessible from our website. That has evolved to, we simplified it after hearing feedback from community partners. And then now we're at a point where we've broken it out, and this orientation is district-wide. One part kind of just going over programming, and then one part specifically around accessing students' username and password for the system, because that has been a challenge when it comes to utilizing Brightspace. We have the Brightspace learner management system, and so that's been helpful. And we have designed course shells. We've gone through several iterations now where instructors have been helping to design course shells along with the incredible district office team so that the courses are all aligned to the NRS levels, and those are loaded into Brightspace course shells. I think those are some of the most effective strategies. And then we also have community drop-in sessions. That's another one that's pretty good, is our partner organizations are able to have their clients and students join a community drop-in session, at which point we can walk some students through the application process, particularly designed for our lowest level ESL learners where we saw the biggest drop. That's it, Carrie.
No, I think that's great. And I love the opportunities for students to pop in just as if they were on campus. So that's fantastic, Dina. Thank you for sharing. Carrie, what effective strategies have you implemented or your program implemented to onboard or recruit students considering the ongoing mitigation related to the pandemic?
Well, first I want to say that we really struggled in the beginning. It was a mess, and we were all trying to help the students and working crazy amount of hours, everyone trying to help out, and it just didn't work. And so one thing that we did was move to an asynchronous onboarding system, similar to what Dina was saying with an online orientation. And so once we did that, everything shifted for our program. We were able to post the link to our Facebook page, send the QR codes, do anything we can to get that link out. And within the first day, we had over 60 students log on and do our onboarding system. So it was highly effective, and it continues to be. We continue to get a lot of students with that way. One thing that we want to do moving forward is to create electronic business cards so that when we're out in the community and our student ambassadors are out in the community, they can pull up their phone and a potential student could to scan their QR code and get all of our information with the link to the asynchronous onboarding, our website, our phone number, all of the information that they need to register for classes. These strategies have improved enrollment by leaps and bounds, and we're really excited about them. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for acknowledging that it wasn't, like a horse out of the gate. We all knew what to do. March last year was a very challenging time. And I think it's good to acknowledge that it was challenging, but we have all made different strides to address the needs of our students. So at this point, I want to pause and allow those in attendance to ask any questions. Brittany, do we have any questions coming in on the question box?
I don't see any at this moment, but they may be furiously typing them in.
So those of you in attendance, there are two ways in which you can participate. You can raise your hand, which I'm going to pop over and look and see if anybody's hand is raised up. The other option is that you can post a question in the question box and we will happily share those out. Or if you are confident and comfortable speaking, you can raise your hand and we will unmute you. So seeing no questions popping in at the moment, please, if you have questions for Carrie or Dina or Felicia as you go through or things pop up, let us know. We'll be happy to ask those for you. I won't address them, I'll ask those for you. And we're gonna move on to our next questions. So we did have one question. Is anyone using QR codes for engagement or marketing with students?
Yes, I am. We use them to get to our asynchronous onboarding system. And so we have attached them to flyers. Like I said, we have the virtual business cards that we use. We use them consistently.
Fantastic. And that was Carrie. I don't know if it pops up or not. I get discombobulated with all the different systems we're on. But yes, that was Carrie at Heartland. Any other questions before we start our 3 that are listed here for you? Oh, we have another one coming in. Does anyone have an online application for adult education?
Not yet.
We do. We have one at CCC. We had an online application on the credit side, and so kind of building off of that. We actually had it in existence previously, but it was a very, very small amount of students in adult ed who actually filled it out. And then if they filled it out, they came to campus and filled out a paper registration card also. But I also had a question for Carrie myself. What platform do you get the QR code from?
Oh my, I would have to look it up. I could send you an email.
Oh, okay, sorry, Carrie.
Off the top of my head, but there are tons of generators online that are free.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll text you.
Okay.
And Carrie, if you'd like to share that out, I think others might be interested. Brittany, do we have any other questions in the question box?
We do, and yeah, I was just going to note that, Carrie, there were a couple coming through as to how exactly you create a QR code. So we may need to share out your contact information. And I will also say on our team, we have Kirsten Bayer, who for a few of our resources, we have QR codes on them as well. So we could also share out some of that information as to how we've created them as well. I can't speak to that personally because I'm not that tech savvy, but we will put that on our list. And Dina, we have a question for you. What program did you use for virtual student orientation?
It's on Zoom. It's on Zoom, and the links to the Zoom are on our website. So someone could even go to the website and join an orientation if they were interested, just to see what that looks like, but it is a Zoom room.
Fantastic, thank you. Any other questions, Brittany, from the attendee,
I think
from
that's
our
all
audience?
at the moment.
Okay, so our next question for the panel today is, what did your students need to be ready for learning as we came back and started up instruction again? So were there certain things that they needed that you needed to provide to them? We're going to just go back down, Carrie, Dina, and Felicia. So Carrie, if you'd like to start us off.
Many of the students in our area needed, obviously, technology help. It was a big struggle in the beginning, and we also needed technology. We had small amounts of Chromebooks and to hand out, but not very many until we got the CARES Act funding. But the students really, really needed support with how to use the technology. And so at first we tried to do it as staff members, and it was all over the place, and it did not work well. So we trained our career navigators to really help students onboard with using the technology, and it became much more effective once they had that initial help. A lot of that was done over phone or through Zoom, one-on-one with the student. We also had a lot of issues with our logins and passwords for our institution as well, especially with Canvas. And during the fall, we had a cyber attack as well. So many of that information was lost, and there was a period of time when we couldn't even enroll any students because the college didn't have an enrollment system. So there was a lot of patchworking and putting together how we were going to support the students. But I think we have it down to a science now with the career navigators really supporting the students one-on-one. Thank you.
Fantastic, Carrie. That's great. Dino, tell us about what you did to what your students needed to be ready for learning.
So similar again, laptops, of course. So huge investment by the district to ship students laptops. If they're enrolled, any student at CCC, they can sign up to have a laptop shipped to their house. We still have issues with some students having trouble getting through that process. But as things become more familiar, they're getting them more often. So we do have that tech support. And then the digital literacy skills, one thing we did is we designed classes with entry points every 4 weeks. And then we ramped up our computer class offerings. So pre-pandemic, we only had computer classes Fridays and Saturdays. We have expanded that now to mornings and evenings, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Fridays and Saturdays. So that, and the scheduling is designed so that students can enroll in their traditional adult ed coursework and then also enroll in those. And then we have used SharePoint. It's our absolute lifeline. So we designed systems in SharePoint, one for the deans, one for the admin team, one for the whole team, and then one for instructors and all of the above. And one thing that's nice with the Microsoft suite is we used forms to create a computer interest survey, and then students fill that out and it drops responses directly into an Excel. It's on the SharePoint that everybody has access to. So enrolling them in those computer classes are really seamless at this point. And then those computer classes, I think, contribute to some of the skills that they've built and the retention for online learning.
Fantastic, thank you. And Alicia?
I think very similar, the technology and the how to use the equipment once you have it. So same thing, we have a process for like a little, it's done by intake person, and through the conversations they decide all the things that they need. It all goes into a backpack that the student can pick up, that they sign out. It's got all the things they need for their particular class. Some classes are, what book they're using or whatever they're having. So they pick up everything for their class at one time, and then have whatever instruction. Lots of, we have instruction sheets included, and they will put in their language of origin, how to get onto Zoom, how to get into, use your Chromebook or iPad, whatever they have. And then through that, just making sure they have practice with those things with someone they're comfortable with, so that when classes started, they're ready to go. They need confidence. That's a big thing our students need. We are ESL only program. So we have people who are just terrified to touch these things. And that's kind of get up and get over those hurdles. This is the world we're in. And it's gotten more popular. And I think among these, we're creating these student leader groups that will help us within the communities, the little communities within our program, to make that stronger in the future. They will be our promoters. Other supports were needed. Before they could focus on class, we had to get them food. We hygiene products, cleaning supplies, PPE. So part of that intake is that assessment. And when they come to get their things, and maybe sometimes people like to bring in homework and paper or some things, we make sure that they receive the things that they need for their families, so that they can focus on school for themselves.
Fantastic. Great, great suggestions. And I'm sure there's questions coming in. I do want to go to the next, and Felicia, we're going to start with you. Actually, we'll start with Dina this time. We haven't started with Dina yet. Going to shift over to instructors. What strategies have been successful with your instructors regarding instruction, retention, and outcomes? Dina, we'll start with you.
So this was a big lift. We had started with the SharePoint in terms of resource availability, and making sure that students or the teachers had what they needed for students. The Brightspace course shells, the materials, we used the standout curriculum, so my ELT codes. And then I think a lot of it was very intentional, continuous support. And so we used, we right away developed an instructor support plan where they had a clerical, a coordinator, and an administrative lead, so that they knew exactly who to reach out to for what they needed for the classroom. And then we worked specifically around each different piece. So who needs support on Brightspace? Who needs support on Zoom? Who needs support on SharePoint? Who needs support on email or communication with students? And so taking it, breaking it down a lot for each instructor, and then getting them what they needed for success, really. You know, we still have some challenges, but they've come a really long way, and it's been exciting because I think, you know, a lot of this will carry over post-pandemic.
I think that's a very true statement. I think we're going to have a lot of things that we've implemented over the last year as a response that will be things that we'll hold on to and continue to implement. So thank you very much. Next, Felicia or Carrie, who wants to take it on next?
Okay.
Okay, go Carrie.
Okay.
I love it. You're both excited. Yes, absolutely. Go ahead, Carrie.
Okay, so we were very lucky because the previous year we had moved all our instructors onto Canvas, even though classes were in person. And so all of our instructors were really very familiar with our learning management system. But we did a lot of work with using Zoom and a lot of professional development targeted at virtual learning. One thing that we really did that I think really helped our instructors was we hired a tech coach. And the tech coach was a former student of ours. And so she's pretty much on call anytime the instructor or students need help in supporting them in the classroom. And it has been amazing. Instructors really value having that support, and so do students as well. I think that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Felicia?
What has helped a lot with the retention is our instructors are very available. We did do all summer a lot of professional development around how to use the technologies, how to incorporate it all into your programs. Burlington English is new for us this year, and that has been a game changer. I think it's going to be a blessing overall once we are getting to that point where I love, hate it, but no, I love it mostly. We have assistants that are available to Zoom into the classrooms as teachers request help. So to help with, you know, the technical issues, things that students, they want to help with that person while the instructor can focus on the whole class. So that's very helpful. The instructors meet every other week as a group to kind of work out different things that they're trying and what they, because we're kind of a little bit like the Wild Wild West, where It's like, just try it. Let's see what happens. Be bold. This is the opportunity. And sometimes I've been not attending those because it was very difficult for them, as I've discovered, to be very honest in front of me with the things that they struggled with. So I don't attend. They are very free with their emotions, how it's going. It's all support for the teachers. And I think that's going to be one thing that is going to continue, that's been very helpful for our teachers to help the students.
That is fantastic. Thank you all so much for sharing. This has been just really resourceful. We have one last question that we prepared, and then we'll open the floor up for questions. So our last question is, what support services were you able to implement for your staff? And was it as helpful as you had hoped? So I know a couple of you spoke about trying something and seeing if it worked, and if it didn't, trying something else. But I'd like to now pivot to your staff. So what supportive services were you able to implement for your staff, and was it as helpful as you had hoped? And this time we'll start with Carrie.
Okay. I think the supportive services that we added that were the most helpful was the work that the career navigators did to help with the onboarding and preparing the students to get ready to be in the classroom. Without that preparation, I think the instructors would have struggled so much more with the learning process and students being able to connect. And then the tech coach really took it to the next level by being supportive in the classroom and helping the instructors and students alike. I think also really just championing the instructors and staff, constantly telling them it's going to be okay and you can do this. And there's been a lot of breakdowns, over the year because it's been a struggle. And so just being a listening ear to the staff, and if they ever need to talk, because it has been such a struggle.
I think that's a very good point. Dina, would you like to share next?
Yeah, I think, again, just building out systems. One thing we did in the very beginning, the associate dean and I sat down and thought about what are the pillars of an adult education program: testing, outreach, enrollment, curriculum and instruction. And in each of those different pillars, how are we going to manage it? What tools do we already have? And we essentially migrated the entire program onto SharePoint. A lot of the systems turned into communication tools themselves. So each instructor has their own dedicated folder on a OneDrive where they fill out projection sheets to let us know where students are going next, if they're staying in that level, if they're moving up to the next level. And then, just exactly, what Carrie said, that we're all learning. I was not a tech expert. I had used Zoom very minimally, and we're all learning through this. We're putting things in place, re-examining with the team, making adjustments as needed. And that idea of continuous improvement has really been critical, because they recognize that nothing is perfect right now, but we're using these tools to get through it. And we'll focus on the next system in a bit and keep going and keep moving. So
Fantastic. I think that's a good mantra. Keep going and keep moving.
Ready for me?
I'm ready for you. Sorry. Yes, go ahead, Felicia.
So this has been a huge problem for me. I mean, as all this started, I lost my staff. I mean, my instructors are just not interested in teaching a lot. The ones who stayed behind feel, you know, like they've been through so much, right? Preparing for this, everything that's new, nothing that's the same. Up until like when I call, I do like we do our students. There's a lot of check-in, texting, calling. I just feel like when I hear their voice, they're like, "Oh, what do you want from me now?" It's like, no, nothing. How are you? How's it going? Be prepared to listen and be prepared to respond when they tell you what they need. I try to be incredibly, as much as I can, responsive, because they're like they're at the front lines every day dealing with, as you said, the breakdowns from students and the teachers alike. But I feel like we're getting stronger and moving forward. And that light at the end of the tunnel, our staff were all able to be vaccinated. I think that's up their confidence and willingness to even stick with it, even if they're not on site, that there is the light in the tunnel that we talked about. We have been in great flux and change all year, and that's not going to stop. We're going to continue to be in that. And I'm grateful to have it here from, I love Carrie and Dina. I mean, they're like my icons. I look and say, what are they doing? What are they doing? So I look forward to the ones coming up, because I need the support. I need the support for my program and for us to support our students. That's all.
That is fantastic. So I'd like to open the floor now to questions. Are there any questions, Brittany, that we have coming in?
I don't see any at this moment, but that doesn't mean they're not, and they're typing them.
So while everyone is typing, just again, if you have any questions for Felicia, Dina, or Carrie today, I'd like to just invite you to either raise your hand and we'll unmute you, or post those in the chat. In addition, I want to remind you that this is one of 3 sessions, and we're going to be asking the same questions, and we're going to be hearing from 6 more programs. So there's 9 programs total that are sharing their strategies with us. And so we're getting together again on March 11th at 1 p.m. and March 16th at 11 a.m. And if you have any questions about that, please direct those to me or Brittany or icsps@ilstu.edu, and we'll get you in contact with the registration, or Nora has that information as well at ICCB. As you're typing and looking for questions, a couple things. I've been told by Kirsten, who is our tech person, that the QR code is very easy. So I think one of the things that we can do is put together a nice guide on how to create a QR code for your program and get that out to you in the next few upcoming weeks. And then I do want to just personally thank Felicia, Dina, and Carrie for taking your time and for sharing with us today. It has been a crazy year. The world turned upside down, and we all navigated through it to the success and challenges of our students. And I really want to thank you all for your hard work and your dedication to adult education and the state of Illinois. And we just really appreciate everything that you do. And thank you so much for coming today and sharing your story. And
Thank you. Thank you for having us. I think it's so important what Felicia said, you know, that some of my very favorite people are probably on this webinar right now. And I think as a state and as a field, we are always, you know, in the spirit of collaboration and what is this person doing? What is that person doing? How can I learn from each other? So in addition to the webinars, we have the IASA conference this week and next week. And so hopefully a lot of opportunities to keep that growth. Again, so much of this is stuff that we're going to keep doing. And so that's exciting. And I'm grateful to be in this space with all of you and getting through it as colleagues.
very well said, Dina, very well said. And yes, I thank you for putting the plug in for IASA. I was going to add that as well. IASA conference, I believe, starts this week and goes into next week. That is a fantastic conference. And actually, the last time I saw many of you, last year's IASA conference was the last time I got to be in person with anybody. So I do miss seeing the faces and the hugs and all of the fun engagement that adult education brings. So thank you for the closing comment, Deanna. Brittany, do we have any additional questions?
So we did have a request if we could just verify the colleges and the programs that are presenting. And then if the three of you are comfortable, if we could have your contact information to share out with others, if that could be a possible resource for them as well.
So are you all comfortable with us sharing out your email?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
In sync. Perfect. And then the other programs that are going to be featured March 11th. So later this week, we're going to hear from Illinois Eastern Community College, Literacy Chicago, and the College of Lake County. And then on the 16th, we're hearing from Kankakee Community College, Illinois Central College, and Truman College. And with that, and if we don't have any further questions, Felicia or Carrie, do you have any closing comments you want to share with the field and before we wrap up today?
Thank you for having us here today. And just remember to log on to IASA.net to get for the IASA conference coming this week.
Excellent. And Felicia, any closing comments?
Yes, thank you very much. And I am registered. I will see you there at IASA.
Yes, I believe Brittany and I are going to see you at IASA, well, as much as we see each other at IASA as well. So thank you all so much for taking your time and spending the afternoon with us. Thank you to our presenters for the great content. I think it's just really such a wonderful opportunity to hear from your peers as to what is happening and how we are adapting and evolving as a system. So thank you all so much for your time today. And with that, I'm going to close this out. So have a wonderful afternoon. Get out and enjoy the sunshine because it's finally spring in Illinois. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.